Hello and welcome to this sketchbook tour of my sketchbook that I started in 2018 and I finished recently in 2021. This is a sketchbook and not an art journal. It's got a lot of art in it that I have never shown before because everything is quite sketchy and idea based and unfinished. So it's not the type of thing that I would put on my curated Instagram feed, which tends to be more kind of mixed media art journaling work. But here you can have a little look into kind of a sketchbook where I record ideas and sketches and doodles and things like that. And it's also kind of a look through my process of kind of starting to develop a sketchbook practice. When I started this, I already had quite an established art journal practice, but not necessarily a place where I could develop ideas. And that's kind of what I am figuring out over the course of the 3 or 4 years that I worked in this sketchbook. So I went on holiday to Spain and we went to the Guggenheim Bilbao, where I was trying to have a look at being inspired and sketching based on what I was seeing and then incorporating it with my own kind of motifs. This pigtail kind of swirl was inspired by a Basquiat painting, and I think these little crowns as well, kind of working with seeing patterns, sketching things repetitively, that kind of thing, and then bringing it in with my own motifs of the closed-eyed girls with little horns, what do you call these, wings, and the creepy hands. Also, on this holiday, what I did beforehand was I prepared this sketchbook by printing out some artwork of people who I follow on Instagram, whose art I really admire, and who I wanted to do studies of their work. That's valid for a sketchbook. I wouldn't post these things on social media kind of saying like, oh, look, this is my work, because this is very obviously studies from other people. So this is from someone called Najimir. I will leave all the links below as well, so you can go and find out more about them and find their work. This is Melissa Chalhoub. I hope I've pronounced that right. This is Rowney K. So I just took these pictures and then went and had a look at what they were doing, incorporating it into my own work, doing like for like studies, trying to really copy things because, you know, that's a way of learning. Someone called C. Bost. Kelly Einbinder. I love her work. She does amazing work and amazing music. And yeah, it was trying these things. So this was a study, like this was a specific copy of this part of the painting. But then I kind of took the things that I found out from doing that little study and I started bringing it into my own motifs and stuff. And that was really interesting. And it really pushed my work a lot. Yellow Rose Art, again, doing kind of a fairly kind of dedicated copy, and then, you know, letting that inform other artwork that I've done. And it's very interesting to work that way, to copy and then to kind of bring it into your own work. And I feel like what you see in the pages coming up after this is definitely informed by that. Sorry, I got interrupted by the doorbell. I was talking about this page. The studies and things that came before then really started feeding into my own original work that I started creating after that. And I couldn't recommend that enough. So here you see those motifs coming back in and me kind of like figuring out kind of the mix between scary, creepy, and pretty, and kind of like finding a way in the middle. Just loads of sketches of similar things. I use my sketchbooks to work out maths because sometimes you have to. I use it to when I'm carving stamps. Had some ideas and then I carved them and then I was testing them, and every time I tested them I could see what I still needed to carve away. Kind of like notes to myself, making sketches, and then kind of like diary writing, sketches that kind of become slightly more painty sketches. And it's almost like art journaling, but not quite. And the process of putting these things in a sketchbook are really freeing. Here I'm just kind of thinking about concepts, and to me these kind of things, they're very separate. So I might be thinking about things, but then I don't go away and make art about them directly. It just kind of all feeds into the practice. Here I think I was still very much inspired by Kelly Einbinder's work with these figures and the kind of the colors and then textures over the colors and these weird little animals. Experimenting with hands and knives and flames and things like that. I think a sketchbook is a really great place to push the boundaries of things that, I don't know, these might be things that I would usually feel like they're too weird to include in my art. And I can also see that these days I've moved away from all these things a bit, but I think I'd like to go back to them, to this kind of dark and weird stuff. I think we were at like some stately home where they had a room for kids to play and they had crayons. So I did some crayon drawing. I did a few of these kind of sketchy pages with just kind of very simple supplies, rather than paint supplies, more kind of pens and pencils. Let's see, like these kind of pages. And just getting rid of some of my frustration, experimenting with patterns. This is a page done by my son. I don't remember which one. Probably the eldest. Or maybe both of them. Maybe the youngest did this and the eldest did that. I don't remember. And then I was probably sketching with my kids, doing something kind of cute. And then going back to the creepy and all the faces. I think here I was really just trying to doodle, because I'm not very good at doodling. I'm not really a doodler, even though I like the look of it. So I was trying my best to kind of really fill the page with different things and experimenting with eyes and stuff. I think here I was painting with my kids again. I think this was a lesson by Marieke Blokland. Note to self, I want to remind you, you don't need skill, you only need the willingness to stop and listen. And if you ask yourself, what wise person said these words? Well, it was me. I'm being funny, by the way. I mean, it was me, but I'm also being funny. More faces. I kind of, looking at this, I feel like I should do more of this. Just all these faces. It's really cool. More of these weird watercolor things. I use my sketchbooks to keep memories of things that I do or order. So this is a business card and some stickers from someone who I ordered some stuff off of Etsy from, I think. This was a friend, her business card, and another one of those kind of painty, sketchy experimentation pages. I think that what's different here is that sometimes the sketches they tend to be quite quick sketches, but these pages, I tend to take a long time and work with a lot of detail on the different elements. Whereas when I am doing art journaling, I work really fast and intuitively. And this is still intuitively, but it's a little bit more, I'm taking more time on it, which is funny actually, because, you know, you'd think a sketchbook that goes quicker, but it's actually slightly more deliberate. I'm taking more time over the little details. I use my sketchbook for swatching. I think these are oil pastels. Here I was experimenting with white pens on top of fluorescent pink. So a Molotov white pen, a Posca pen, and a Uniball Signo, and just seeing what works best. A little bit of experimentation. These were sketches for a course that I was teaching where I was experimenting with like personal imagery and symbolism, and kind of where you basically take a symbol that you want to explore and then you try it with lots of different supplies, kind of as a preparation for using those symbols in your actual work, like art journaling. I went for a live drawing session, an actual in-person one when that kind of stuff was still allowed. That is just something that I don't love doing it actually, but I always think that it's really important to push myself and try different things. because it does really help with just the skill to then be able to go off and do my own work. When I go shopping, I usually take a sketchbook with me so that if I want to try things out, I can just try them out in my sketchbook, because then I also know that I'm trying them out on a paper that is relevant to me. Here I was trying to find the perfect red pencil. I don't think I found it. I was trying to find something that was close to Prismacolor, because you can't really get Prismacolor in the UK or in Europe, I think. And I was trying to find an alternative to a Prismacolor and not really quite coming up with one that I really liked. Putting together some color schemes, notes to myself. I think I was doing this for a course that I was developing, even though I don't think I ever finished that. More kind of like musings and stuff. I just have little writings like this everywhere. I have them on my phone, I have them in sketchbooks, I have them in my bullet journal, I have them in an actual journal. It's just whenever that kind of stuff needs to come out, I start writing it. Another one of those sketchy pages with different elements and symbols and sketchy things. I think I went shopping again and tried different supplies. Sometimes I just use it more in the way that I would use my art journal. Swatches of new Daniel Smith watercolors that I bought, and I think these are the Fine Tech watercolors, and I was using them on top of some watercolors. Using my sketchbook to record things like ticket stubs from shows. The first time I went to Pride, and I had these on my face, so I kept them. This was experimenting with, I think I saw a tarot card that somebody had done, and then I did it myself. A lot of copying. I do find that copying in my sketchbook is something that I do to kind of wrap my head around what other people are doing. What do I want to bring into my own practice? And I don't tend to do that in my fully fledged artwork, because I don't want to be copying or have my work look like somebody else's work. But I feel like a sketchbook is a perfect place to experiment with that. When Does He Come From Away, which was amazing. These are notes from Roxanne Coble-Bybun's lyrical class, where I was doing some research on the songs that I wanted to incorporate into the artwork. And in this course, she teaches you about like creating your own fonts and stuff, and hand lettering. So that was cool. River by Joni Mitchell. I don't think I ever did any. I didn't do a spread with that. And Frozen by Madonna. I think I did do a spread about that one. And they would have been, so the working out is in my sketchbook, and then the fully fledged artwork is in my art journal somewhere. Starting to get into sketches. So when I'm doing these, it's partly drawing on my own things, and also partly I will usually get something up on Pinterest, and I will start sketching based on real faces, like photographs, and sometimes I kind of I amalgamate them into each other. Here is another one of those sketchy pages. I think this was definitely inspired by Bun, with like the little tape and the bits of paper, and then also bringing in motifs that I do myself, like these poppies. More sketchy pages with these faces that I do. Sometimes if I'm doodling somewhere else, then I will put this in, paste it in. Coming back to these, because this is all much more recent, but I think that what I must have done is, this is probably 2020. We can tell by the tickets. Oh no, 2020 was a year that didn't exist. Okay, so 2019 then, but end of 2019. And I think I must have been going back through this sketchbook and going like, oh yeah, I'm inspired by myself, and then I went back and I did these notes that I received. I will keep. This was just before the whole kind of COVID lockdown happened. It was like the final things that I did back then, which was A Doll's House and I Gudesman and You at the Royal Festival Hall. And then these are very recent. So I just finished this sketchbook. I was like, oh, I've got a sketchbook that's nearly finished. So I filled it up with more sketches. And this was really deliberately sitting down and going like, okay, I'm going to try and sketch faces and look at Pinterest. And on the one hand, kind of trying to get the features right, like an open mouth like that and the eyes looking that way, but then also at the same time trying to incorporate it into my own work. Because when I try to copy things too much and I do too many studies, I get really unhappy. Like I'm like, oh, I find this so boring. So I kind of try to combine it with my own ways of doing things, and it keeps it more interesting to me. And it also really pushes my technical skills. Probably not as quickly as if I just did this all the time, but still in a way where it feels useful. This was a friend of mine that I was trying to sketch, but it didn't end up looking like her at all. Here I was trying to experiment with adding bodies, which I am definitely not good at. I saved some of Bun's things that she put in the order that I placed, and here I was carving one of my own stamps. If you've ordered from me, you will have seen this stamp because it's on all my envelopes. So here I was just carving it and like testing it. A thank you stamp that I carved. I was like, shall I order this stamp? And I was like, no, it will take me 30 minutes to make it myself. So I made it myself. Here, other thank you notes, that kind of thing that I just want to keep. And then these final pages are the few days of the April Art Challenge by Roxanne Coble that I did. So this one was mushroom. This one was male, which is where I got the idea of doing the little envelopes as polymer clay earrings. And I love just kind of doing simple doodling and then having kind of permission to just keep repeating the same thing and honing that doodling skill, I guess. I never used to be a doodler when I was younger, so it's nice to be able to do stuff like that. This was stitches, which I really liked incorporating into those kind of weird faces that I do, and I really liked it where I put the stitches here instead of a mouth. I know it's quite creepy, but I was really happy with that kind of imagery, and I think I did that in an art journal spread as well. Rainbow, kind of combining the cutesy with slightly more spooky. Here was a spell book. I think I did most of these whilst driving along in the car. And then device, which I was planning on doing a Game Boy, but I didn't really remember what a Game Boy looked like. So then I looked it up and did it like that. And then just this final spread was just more experimental sketching. I don't think I looked at any examples for this. This was just my knowledge of kind of where the eyes go and where the features go, and then trying to experiment with like some elf ears, things like that. Just trying to keep loose. And then this final page I used for some more. This was probably done ages ago, just using those final pages of your sketchbook, you know, where you just go to the last page and you try things, or your pen is running out, or making notes because somebody recommended a website to you, that kind of stuff. You know how it is. Oh, and this is a Daler Rowney 150 GSM sketchbook. I think this is the Ivory Sketchbook, which is, it's nice. Like the paper is nice and it stands up to mixed media really well. You can write in it, you can sketch in it, you can use watercolors in it. It's not watercolor paper, but it stands up to watercolors. So it's a really nice sketchbook actually. And I don't really understand why I haven't bought another one of it. I don't know. So that was my little sketchbook. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you enjoy the type of content that I am putting out and you would like to check out my Patreon, please do. I post more videos and have other goodies like digital downloads and stickers on there, and you can check that out. All the relevant links will be in the description below. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!